Have you ever looked into your own eyes in the mirror and felt a strange silence as if someone was staring back at you from the other side? Not the version of you from yesterday, not the role you play in public, but something far older, deeper, a part of your soul that you may have lost long ago. From ancient Egypt to mystical India, the eyes have always been regarded as symbols of sacred power. The eye of Horus guarding life and death, the third eye revealing intuition beyond duality, and in European folklore, the witch's gaze could hypnotize and pierce straight into the soul. So why is it that in the modern world, we reduce eye color to just a matter of genetics? Carl Jung, the legendary psychoanalyst, once said, "Nothing about you is meaningless. Even your body is a spiritual map." He believed that eye color, gaze, facial expression, all of it was a language spoken by the unconscious soul. Picture this. You're born with misty blue-gray eyes like the fog of Northern Europe. People say you seem distant, emotionally cold. But no one knows that within you there's a quiet tidal wave, as if you've been living between two worlds. Or maybe you have soft, earthy brown eyes, gentle like soil. People come to you for comfort, to be heard. You're strong, yes, but deep inside, maybe you've forgotten your own dreams. Perhaps your gaze resembles Medusa, piercing and misunderstood, or Psyche, with eyes full of longing to understand and to heal. What matters isn't what your eyes are looking at, but rather who is looking through those eyes. Is it the child who was once wounded, the lover who was never fully loved, or the soul that is now waking up? In this video, I'm not here to offer simplistic personality guesses. We're stepping into the realm of symbolism, where your eye color becomes a cipher and your gaze a gateway into the unconscious. Each color of the eye will be revealed through ancient archetypes that Jung once explored. The seeker always turning inward, the alchemist transforming through cycles, the observer who sees the truth beneath silence. I invite you to pause your busy day, to set aside the roles you play, to sit down and look into your eyes just once more. Because maybe in that gaze, you won't just see reflection, you'll see yourself again. And now let's explore why the eyes, more than any other part of the body, are the primary tool your unconscious mind uses to speak to you. The eye is a living symbol of the unconscious and archetype. The eyes are not merely where light enters the body. In the symbolic realm, they are where the soul steps forward to meet the world. Carl Jung once said that symbols are the natural language of the unconscious. If that's true, then our eyes, with gazes that can be soft, piercing, or filled with unspeakable sorrow, are perhaps the most vivid symbol of the psychological processes unfolding beneath our conscious awareness. We often look into others' eyes and wonder who they are, but we rarely ask what within me is doing the looking. Not all eyes gaze the same. Some search, some avoid, some slice like blades, some embrace in silent compassion. Eye contact, where neuroscience meets ancient soul work. From a neurological perspective, the eyes are one of the most powerful tools for nonverbal communication. Research by Dr. Michael Tomasello, Max Planck Institute, shows that even newborns can sense another person's intent through eye contact long before they learn to speak. This reveals something profound: we are wired to read each other's souls through the eyes. Think of a defining moment, a first date, a betrayal, a final goodbye with a loved one. No words were needed, the eyes said it all. That is the intersection where the language of emotion meets the imagery of symbol. Carl Jung called this the liminal zone between the conscious and the unconscious, the space where symbols rise from the depths and the eyes become their messengers, saying what words cannot. The eye in mythology, an eternal symbol of knowledge and power. Look to mythology. The eye of Horus, a symbol of protection, healing, and divine awareness. In Greek myth, the three fates Moirai share a single eye to see the destiny of humankind. Odin, the all-father of Norse mythology, gave up one eye in exchange for the wisdom of the world. Why does losing an eye so often symbolize waking up? In Jungian terms, this reflects the symbolic death of the ego's visual dominance. We stop seeing only with physical eyes and begin perceiving with the inner eye. In ancient art, Egyptian tombs often depict the eye of God carved on coffins so the dead could still see into the afterlife. Renaissance paintings render sacred figures with eyes that seem to pierce time itself, as if they see what ordinary humans cannot. Archetypes expressed through the gaze. Every eye is a mirror of the soul. Jung didn't just speak of abstract symbols. He insisted that archetypes live within us, and one of the first places they manifest is in the eyes. Someone carrying the protector archetype often has warm eyes, quiet, steady, and grounding. The seeker's eyes drift into the distance as if living in another layer of reality. The observer watches with analytical clarity, not judgmental, but deeply perceptive. The alchemist's gaze fluctuates, gentle at times, fiery at others, paradoxical and magnetic. And the wonder is, you can embody all of these archetypes at different phases of your life. The eyes are where the soul changes costume, reflection and transformation. The gaze as inner ritual. If you pause and gaze into a mirror long enough, you may notice your eyes begin to change. Not in color, but in meaning. One day you might see unnamed exhaustion. Another a tender sadness, ancient and sacred. Jung called this the moment when the shadow rises, to be seen. And when the unconscious is seen, it begins to transform. That's why in many healing traditions, eye-gazing, whether with another or with oneself, is a sacred practice. In some Zen schools, disciples meditate by locking eyes with their teacher to receive heart transmission. In therapy, deep healing often begins in that single shared moment of eye contact where empathy truly lands. The eyes in the shadow. Gaze as mirror of the inner darkness. Jung taught we can only see others through the parts of ourselves we've already met. When someone's eyes trigger something in you, desire, fear, repulsion, it's not just about them. It's your own shadow being reflected back. That's not a threat, it's an opportunity, a chance to awaken. When your gaze stops being a tool for judgment and instead becomes a neutral mirror, you begin living from awareness, not from the old scripts of the past. If you've ever sensed something unnameable in your own eyes, a truth that words couldn't hold, write it. In the comments, simply begin with, "In my eyes I see." You don't need logic, only honesty. And if this message speaks to your journey, share this video with someone else who's seeking themselves, not through the world, but through the quiet unfolding of their soul. This is a space where we see each other, not through labels, but through the eyes of those learning to come home. In the next chapter, we'll explore how different eye colors reflect different archetypes. Why do blue eyes carry the dreamer's longing? Do brown eyes hold the echoes of generational wounds? And gray eyes, could they be the gaze of an old soul waiting to speak? Stay with us as we go deeper. Eyes in color, the symbolic journey of the soul. In the depths of symbolism, eye color is not just a product of genetics. It is a form taken by the soul, a mystical language through which your inner self expresses the very lessons it is here to live. Carl Jung never saw the body as a mere shell. He viewed it as a living map of the unconscious. And if colors in dreams are, as Jung believed, signs of inner transformation, then the color of your eyes, always present, always watching, might be understood as a dream still unfolding. Blue eyes, the seeker, a soul wandering between worlds. In symbolic traditions, blue is linked to the sky, the sea, the depth of thought, and the blurry boundary between reality and dream. Jung observed that blue in dreams often represents spirituality, distance, or an invitation into unexplored depth. Those with blue eyes often carry the essence of a spiritual wanderer. Their gaze always seems to look beyond, as if seeking something that lies behind the visible, as though trying to peer through surfaces and reach the hidden core. In ancient art, angels, especially melancholic ones, were often painted with pale, vacant eyes. This symbolizes the longing for connection, yet feeling separated. It's the classical trait of the seeker archetype. Jung described the seeker as someone who is never quite satisfied, not because they lack knowledge, but because they sense something greater waiting to be revealed. But within this archetype also lives sorrow and loneliness. The seeker can become so absorbed in the inner world that they forget how to be here. Social neuroscience studies have shown that people who tend to stare off into the distance during interactions often lean toward introspection, closely aligning with the seeker archetype. They might avoid direct eye contact, but possess a deep sensitivity to emotion and imagery. And when the seeker finally learns that the journey itself is the answer, their gaze becomes a guiding light, not because they found the truth, but because they have the courage to live in the question. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and seen yourself? Share that feeling in the comments. That's how we keep the flame of awakening alive together. Brown eyes, the guardian, earth as a human face. In ancient symbolism, brown is the color of soil, safety, nurturing instinct, and groundedness. In dreams, it signifies returning to roots, to something primal and worth protecting. People with brown eyes don't create fireworks. They create calm. They carry the archetype of the guardian, the one who holds space for others' pain without needing recognition. They embody the mother archetype regardless of gender. They attract the brokenhearted not because they seek attention, but because their gaze whispers, "Come as you are, you won't be judged here." In ancient Egyptian art, protector figures like Isis often have dark eyes, a symbol of nurturing power and divine protection from within the shadows. But there's a risk in caring so much the guardian may forget themselves. They may become so lost in caring for others that they dim their own inner flame. Just like the earth goddesses in Celtic myth who hide in stone or forest, not because they are weak, but because they have endured so much without ever speaking of it. Jung warned about over-identification with the persona. Unexamined brown eyes can become a doorway into spiritual depletion. But when the guardian remembers they too deserve to be held, those brown eyes transform no longer just as shelter for others, but a source of healing for themselves. Ask yourself, who are you holding in your gaze, and have you forgotten to hold yourself? Green eyes, the alchemist, the soul of paradox. Green is the union of blue, cool, introspective, and yellow, warm, expressive. In symbolic traditions, green represents rebirth, growth through pain, and the promise of transformation. In dreams, green often signals change, yet always paired with inner conflict. Green eyes are difficult to define. They may be gentle, one moment cutting like a blade the next. Those who carry them are often alchemist souls who die and rebirth again and again. Like Prometheus, who brought fire to humanity, the green-eyed alchemist is often misunderstood. But it is through the cracks that light enters. They are the bridge between shadow and light, not through theory, but lived truth. A study from the University of Toronto found that people whose eyes shift in tone, depending on lighting, tend to be more emotionally adaptable, a trait deeply aligned with the alchemist archetype. Jung said you do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And so goes the life of those with green eyes. They don't escape the dark. They alchemize it into living wisdom. Have you ever gone through a breakdown? Has your gaze ever burned? Then gone still, only to rise again? Leave a word or a story below. Symbolic integration, color in art. Myth and dream. In Byzantine art, blue was reserved for the holiest figures, Mary the angels, proving that color was seen as the soul of the image. In Jungian dream work, the more vivid the color, the more ready the unconscious content is to rise. In Hindu mythology, gods like Krishna or Shiva have blue skin, not because they're alien, but because they symbolize beings who dwell in multiple realms. Brown, often dismissed for its commonness, actually represents what is most trustworthy, a reflection of the steady hearts behind brown eyes. Green, like in the Tree of Life, speaks of regeneration and blossoming through hardship. If you've ever felt like your eyes weren't like anyone else's, not in shape but in energy, you're not alone. We are a community of those who know. Behind every gaze is a story yet to be spoken. Share yours. In my eyes, I carry just one line, but it might become a mirror for someone else's soul. Rare gazes, journeys on the edge of the unconscious. If blue, brown, and green eyes represent the more common flows of human experience, then gray, hazel, and black eyes are portals into the soul's most mysterious territory, where there is no map, only intuition. Carl Jung called these spaces the shadow, not the shadow of evil, but the part of ourselves not yet brought into consciousness. People with these rare eyes often unconsciously become guardians of the threshold between what is known and what is still waiting to be revealed. Gray eyes, the observer, the one who watches time. Gray eyes are a blend of black and white, neutral, balanced, still. In symbolism, gray represents wisdom, slowness, neutrality, and non-reactive observation. Those with gray eyes often embody the archetype of the observer, or sometimes the hermit one, who stands outside of social rhythms to uncover deeper order. In Renaissance art, philosophers and sages were often depicted with gray-toned eyes, not for physiological accuracy, but as a symbol. They don't react, they perceive. Psychologically, these people tend toward thinking, plus intuition, a powerful combination for deep analysis, but also prone to doubt and internal withdrawal. Famous figure Tilda Swinton, her gaze feels as if it comes from another dimension, observing this one with curiosity and calm. But Jung warned, intellect cannot replace life. The gray-eyed soul may observe too much and feel too little, becoming a spectator in their own story. The climax of this archetype doesn't come from external chaos. It comes from the quiet collision of awareness and isolation, the pain of seeing too much and having no words for it. A Harvard study 2016 showed that gazes with low movement or emotional expression tend to be perceived as mysterious or distant, a match for the observer archetype. When integrated, the gray-eyed gaze becomes a mirror, clear, still non-judging, helping others see themselves through conscious silence. When you look at the world, do you look with judgment or curiosity? Leave your reflection below. Let us see more through your lens. Hazel eyes, the shapeshifter, living between masks. Hazel eyes shift color, sometimes brown, sometimes green, sometimes golden. In symbolic language, this represents transformation, adaptation, fluid identity, and quiet mystique. Those with hazel eyes often embody the shapeshifter archetype one, who moves through roles while keeping an inner core. Like Loki from Norse mythology, part trickster, part truth-teller, rule-breaker, and revealer. Psychologically, they tend to carry feeling plus thinking or intuition, sensation, allowing them to shift fluidly with their surroundings. Famous figure Johnny Depp, a gaze that's complex, unreadable, yet deeply evocative and imaginative. In East Asian art, mythical beings that were part human, part spirit often had eyes that changed color, symbolizing multidimensional perception. But Jung warned the persona isn't the problem, it's forgetting that it's just a mask. The hazel-eyed soul must learn to name their center, or they risk morphing so often they no longer recognize their own reflection. And then, the most frightening thing isn't being misunderstood, it's not knowing how many times your gaze has shifted to satisfy the world. A study from MIT found that people with changing eye tones are often more emotionally responsive to their environment with multi-layered empathy, which may explain why hazel-eyed people tend to be easily trusted. When integrated, the shapeshifter becomes a bridge, connecting people worlds and even the fragmented parts of others. Do you feel like someone who can't be defined? At times, light, at times, shadow, share below, so others can find themselves in your reflection. Black eyes, the shadow keeper. Guardian of the mystical black, or truly deep brown eyes, often blur the line between iris and pupil. In symbolism, black isn't the absence of light, it's all light not yet revealed. People with black eyes tend to carry the archetypes of the shadow, the witch, or the depth keeper. Their gaze can feel piercing, not because they look too hard, but because they feel you before you speak. Their dominant psychological functions are intuition plus feeling, making them deeply sensitive to the unconscious energies of others. Famous figure Björk, her gaze is dark, ungraspable, but rich in primal symbolism and emotion. In ancient African and Native American rituals, shamans, those who connected to ancestral memory, were often portrayed with black eyes, symbolic of their access to the collective soul. Jung once said, "The shadow is not the enemy. It is the part of yourself you have not yet loved." People with black eyes often provoke strong reactions in others because they reflect back the very shadow others are trying to avoid. But in those eyes lies a gateway that few dare to cross, a place with no words, only raw seeing, unfiltered pain, and untouched truth. A Stanford study showed that very dark eyes tend to make others feel more seen and more likely to confess deep truths, explaining the intense magnetism of the shadow keeper. When this gaze is brought into consciousness, it no longer hides secrets. It becomes a temple of transformation, where the unnamed within us is illuminated by presence alone. Have people ever been intimidated by your eyes? Or have you ever fallen into a gaze you couldn't escape? Share it, it may be the key to unlocking something in you. We are not the same, but each of us carries a gaze unlike anyone else. Comment below. My eyes are... Even just a few words could be the mirror someone else has been searching for. So far, we've explored the hidden symbols behind eye color, but something even more subtle remains. Gaze, the direction through which your eyes meet the world. Transmission, the energy your gaze silently carries. Ancestral gaze, are your eyes carrying a history never spoken? In the next part, we'll explore the gaze as a spiritual instrument. Don't leave yet. What you've been searching for may have been watching you this whole time. Gaze is a spiritual tool, practices in transformation. We've explored the symbolism of each eye color, from radiant light to shadow's depth. But there's something even subtler waiting to be uncovered. A gaze is not merely about color, it is energy, a portal to feel another's soul and your own. Carl Jung once said, "You do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Gaze, then, is one of the subtlest tools for bringing shadow into light. Gaze, direction as invisible energy. In analytical psychology, the eyes aren't just instruments of sight, Jung described gaze as part of the libido system, a spiritual energy circulating between the ego and the world. Gaze carries nonverbal transmission. That's why some people's eyes calm you, some make you shrink, and others move you to tears for no obvious reason. In ancient rituals, the gaze was a sacred act. Aztec shamans used their eyes to transfer spiritual force. Taoist masters taught how to look into the forehead to observe inner energy. Celtic midwives used their gaze to read the true soul of a newborn. Today, neuroscience confirms that eye contact activates brain regions linked to empathy, safety, and social connection. University College London, 2021. Eye gazing, a practice to see the soul. Eye gazing is a simple but powerful practice. Sit across from another person. Look into their eyes in silence for 2 to 10 minutes. It's not about looking, but about being present together. Many people who try eye gazing begin to cry not from pain, but because they finally feel seen without judgment. For the first time in a long time, they are touched through the gaze of another. This practice awakens the witness archetype, the part of you that simply observes without needing to fix, label, or defend. You can try this with a loved one to heal distance, a stranger to feel shared humanity, yourself in a mirror to meet the part of you that has never been loved. Have you ever looked into your own eyes not to fix anything, but to listen? A deeper variation. Add steady breath and place one hand over your heart. This synchronizes heartbeat and neural empathy, enhancing soul-to-soul resonance. Clearing the gaze, inner shadow work through the eyes. Your gaze doesn't just transmit energy. It carries residue of past wounds, judgment, fear, shame, all leave a layer of dust on your eyes. Carl Jung described shadow work as the path of confronting the parts of ourselves we've disowned, hidden, or been ashamed of. And the eyes, they are the most honest window to see whether that shadow still lives. A simple way to begin. Every morning, look into the mirror, no makeup, no judgment. Ask softly, what in my eyes wants to be seen today? Write it down without editing, repeat for 21 days. You'll begin to notice your eyes becoming clearer, not because you've erased anything, but because you've fully embraced yourself. A study from the California Institute of Intuition 2022 showed this practice increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, where self-awareness and compassion are processed. You can also try drawing your own eyes once a week. It doesn't need to be good, only honest. This is a powerful blend of art therapy and shadow work. The ancestral gaze, eyes that don't belong only to you. Jung once said, we do not live only our own lives, we also live the unlived lives of our ancestors. Your eyes might be carrying stories never told, the dreams of your grandmother, the heartbreaks of your father, the longings of generations not yet healed. Try this. Look at old photographs of your ancestors. Pause at their gaze. What do you feel? A nameless sorrow, an unspoken wish, a presence you carry in your own face each day. We can purify the lineage of gaze by offering silent thanks each time we see our reflection, writing letters to our ancestors just through the eyes, creating quiet moments to look at their photos and breathe. You don't need to erase the past. You simply need to become aware the gaze you carry today is part of a long, unfinished story. What are your eyes passing down to the next generation? Control or compassion? Share below. Have you ever tried eye gazing or looked into someone's eyes and felt their soul without a word? Your comment may be the message someone else has been waiting for, to finally have the courage to look into themselves. In the final chapter, we'll return the journey of the gaze back to where it all began, where the eyes are no longer biology but ritual, symbol, and invitation to awaken. Stay with us, because the most important part is when you learn to see without needing to open your eyes, turning your gaze into a healing tool. Practice an inner journey. There's a moment when you lock eyes with someone and feel I am seen, not for your appearance but for your soul. That's when a gaze stops being just an action and becomes a tool for healing. Carl Jung believed no one becomes whole without connecting to their personal unconscious, and the eyes are among the most powerful gateways to that realm. How to turn your gaze into a daily healing ritual. Use eye contact instead of reaction. When listening to someone close to you, don't rush to respond. Instead, wait 3 seconds after they finish speaking and look into their eyes. This brief silence helps them feel deeply received. Practice gazing with love. Each morning, pick one person, your partner, a housemate, a coworker, and offer them a soft, affectionate gaze for just 1 second. You're sending out a silent signal of safety into the world. Look in the mirror with compassion. Don't just check your appearance. Look into your own eyes and say sincerely, I'm here with you. Your gaze gradually shifts from defense to connection. Witness wounded eyes. When you feel emotionally triggered, don't speak immediately. Instead, look into the other person's eyes for one full breath and notice what emotions arise. This is a mindful way to regulate reactivity. Eye gazing for deep emotional repair. Try 5 minutes of eye gazing with a loved one or with yourself in the mirror. Then write down what you felt. This practice helps reconnect with the tender parts you often hide from the world. Inner blockages that hinder healing through the gaze. Not everyone is ready to make eye contact because gazes often carry unprocessed pain or unconscious defense. People who avoid eye contact may be carrying unacknowledged childhood wounds. Those who stare intensely might hold controlling energy or deep anxiety. A distant, dreamy gaze often points to dissociation caused by prolonged stress. Some people avoid eye contact due to unresolved trauma. In such cases, it's important to seek the support of a therapist or trauma-informed guide. The point is not to judge these tendencies, but to offer yourself compassion. Healing begins when you're willing to see without rushing to fix, turning the gaze into an invitation. The art of empathy in relationships. In relationships, a gaze is the silent river that flows between two souls. A couple, after 5 years of tension once shared, we started doing 3 minutes of eye gazing every night. No talking, just looking. And somehow, we began to see each other again, like we did when we first fell in love. At work, you can create safety through small rituals. Maintain gentle eye contact when a colleague is presenting. Nod slightly when someone looks at you, a subtle way of saying, I'm listening. In parenting, soft eye contact helps stabilize your child's nervous system, according to research from Harvard Center on the Developing Child 2020, a true story. One woman shared her experience after doing 21 days of mirror eye gazing. I saw the eyes of my 7-year-old self again. And for the first time, I didn't look away. Sacred gaze rituals for the modern soul. You can choose one moment each day to turn your gaze into a sacred act. While drinking your morning coffee, pause for 5 seconds and look into the eyes of the barista or server. Silently say, I see you. When entering a meeting room, seek out the most tired gaze and offer a soft smile, I'm with you. Before bed, look into your own eyes and whisper, today may not have been perfect, but I lived it fully. These small practices awaken the inner healer archetype, the part of you capable of transmuting wounds into compassion. Have you ever healed through someone's gaze or your own? If so, share in the comments. Your story might help someone who feels lost find their way again. Or try these practices for 7 days, then return and share what changed. We'll pin the most heartfelt comments so your healing can ripple out into the community. In the next chapter, we will no longer speak of the eyes as symbols, but as living rituals. That's when you'll learn to see without needing to look, to witness without needing to understand. When you finally see through the light within, every gaze becomes a window to the divine. When the eyes are no longer just eyes. There are moments in life when we look but do not see, and other moments when we see without even looking. It's no longer a sensory function. It becomes an act of the soul. Carl Jung once wrote, we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The gaze, like a lantern, is where the first light rises from within. The gaze as a sacred ritual. Now you understand the eyes are not just a visual organ. They are a sacred ritual, a spiritual breath, a gateway into the wordless depths of the inner world. Just imagine, how might your life change if every encounter began with a true gaze? If you could look at others the way you once looked at your childhood self. If your mornings didn't begin with your phone, but with your own eyes in the mirror, looking deeply and smiling. From symbol to personal journey. The eyes have long been ancient symbols, from the eye of Horus in Egyptian mythology, to Shiva's third eye, to the tender gaze of the Virgin Mary in Da Vinci's paintings. But what matters more is when that symbol awakens inside you. From collective myth to personal myth, you don't have to search far for meaning, just start with your gaze today. Is it trembling? Is it tired? Is it longing to finally be seen? A silence that knows how to see. When you train yourself to see from the soul, you transform the quality of every relationship. It's no longer about talking to talk, it's about being still enough to be seen. After this video, you might want to try something. Sit across from your partner or an old friend and just look. No words, no judgments. Just let the eyes do the work of the soul. And maybe you'll cry not from sadness, but because you finally felt seen, without needing to explain anything at all. A slow but true journey. Healing through the gaze doesn't happen overnight. It asks you to slow down, to be sincere, and to tell the truth, especially to the parts of yourself you once denied. But once you begin, once the gaze inside you becomes clear, the world outside you begins to change too. Your relationships soften, your connections deepen, and more than anything, you begin to love yourself again through a gaze that does not judge. If you've made it this far, thank you for walking this path with me. I invite you to share in the comments what have you learned from your own gaze, or simply, I looked again. Your comment may be more than words. It might become a gaze for someone else who feels lost. If this video touched something in you, consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss what's next. Here we don't just talk about psychology, we live it. We awaken it. Every video is a doorway, and you are free to walk through whenever you're ready. A closing like a ritual. Don't just finish this video and forget. Try this. Before bed tonight, turn off your phone. Look into the mirror deeply and whisper, I see you, I forgive you, I walk with you. If you do that, something may begin to shift silently, but powerfully. A person begins to heal the world, not with grand actions, but with a gaze that knows how to love. A quote I don't know the author of, but maybe it's yours now after today.